The Miami Heat have acquired Stormin' Norman Powell from the People's team, while John Collins has escaped the Great Salt Lake. He's headed to La La Land for the real team, the People's team in L.A., and then Kevin Love, he's still playing. Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson have been sentenced to play for the Utah Jazz. All that in a 3-team trade. So let us discuss the question. How do you grade? Keep it simple. How do you grade the 3-team trade that sent John Collins to the Clippers and Norman Powell to the Miami Heat? Those are the key parts of this trade. So I've got sorcery, Disneyland, and sprinkles. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make the gabagool. We're going to make the gabagool. So A, Maller grading. People talk about different insiders. You know, I was a big Woj guy. He retired. Love Woj. He's doing the college basketball thing there in the East Coast. Now they've got that Sham guy. He's out there doing that thing like the Sham Wow guy, but it's the Sham basketball guy. But when it comes to grading a trade, this is the most important spot on the radio dial. It wasn't a blockbuster. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a blockbuster. It was a block whisperer is what this trade was, right? And regardless, make no mistake, this was a heist. It was a heist. It was a daylight train robbery situation. Now, the low information fan would not know that. It's a little more nuanced, and so that's why we're starting with this here. It's a daylight train robbery of the Utah Jazz, and they played the role, the Jazz, Danny Ainge and his kid, the Nepo baby, who's the GM of the Jazz. They played the role of the distracted security guard while the heist took place. So the Clippers pull off a trade. It's under the radar. I admit it's under the radar. And, might as well put that on a milk carton, witness protection, all that stuff. But John Collins, 6'9", has got a pretty good jump shot and appears to have a nice big chip on his shoulder, stuck in Atlanta and Utah. Now he's going to the bright lights of the Clips and Steve Ballmer and all that money. And just more sorcery from the Clippers. They get an A+ with the possibility of upping that to an A++ on this trade. Selling Norman Powell. They got him low. They got him on the low side. They sold him on the high side at the top of his market. They weren't going to pay Stormin' Norman Powell, who is a role player that played above his means, and we saw spotty play in the playoffs. Miami, I'll give them a B, not because I think Norman Powell's amazing. He's a solid but not great player, Norman Powell. But because really what the Miami Heat traded was a bunch of either washed-up players or spare parts. So Powell will give Pat Riley and his team there in Miami a microwave scoring option, but not Vinny the Microwave Johnson. If you're old, you know who that is. And defensive indifference, which is – there's a lot of that. A lot of defensive indifference in the NBA. So the Jazz, they get the old F. Another F trade for the Utah Jazz. They traded a good player for a fossil and another player who's not all that good. But the star of the show is John Collins. That's the star of the show. Goes to the Clippers. 19 points a game, 8 rebounds. That wasn't a bad team, and we always put the qualifier. Anybody can put up stats on a crap team like the Utah Jazz were. He shot the ball well. Shot the ball well from three-point range, almost 40%. Shot the ball well from the floor. And so rebounding, points, the whole thing. And its efficiency. All the nerds love John Collins. All the geeks, they geek out because he's very efficient and all that stuff. And so he can be a rim runner, that's a cool basketball term. Rim runner. Can be that. But he's got the range. He's a lob threat. Those are all good things. And the Clips have picked up already Brook Lopez from later the Milwaukee Bucks. They've got Zubats still hanging around, so they've changed their identity. And now you have John Collins sliding in there like a nice velvet glove at the 4 position for the Clippers. So James Harden's got that vertical pick and roll threat. Kawhi Leonard, he's fine, and maybe he'll pause and when his quad starts whispering sweet nothings to him when we get to February. Maybe he'll calm down a little bit. But the Clippers, they needed a different flavor. after their Game 7 no-show against the Denver Nuggets. And so they got John Collins, who's still not 30 years old, 27 years old. I mean, he turns 28 before the upcoming NBA season. So that's the kind of move. It doesn't get the big headlines for the basketball paparazzo. They don't get excited about John Collins. They don't. But that doesn't get a lot of attention in July. On our show, it does because we're not mainstream. We're on late at night in the overnight. But that's the kind of move that wins you playoff games when we get to May of 2026. That's the kind of move that does that. It's a chess move, and it's not a checkers move. It's a chess move. There's a difference there. And so this will also lead to other additions. There's some chatter in the grapevine that Bradley Beal is about to come inbound to La La Land to the Clippers. Now, moving on from that, we turn the page. We move across Los Angeles to Skid Row. That's where the Lakers play. Talk about Hollywood. They play on Skid Row. If you've ever been to that arena, it is literally in Skid Row. So how do you react to the GM, Skinny Jeans, Rob Pelinka, explaining why DeAndre Ayton, now he agreed to a contract recently. I think on Sunday he agreed to a contract. And so Rob Pelinka, this quote went viral of Rob Skinny Jeans Pelinka, saying that DeAndre Ayton is the ideal center for the Lakers. He talked about championships and getting back to that level because of DeAndre Ayton and all this stuff. So I saw the quotes, and I give this a shoulder shrug. I give it a shoulder shrug is what I do. Rob Pelinka is selling the dumb fan. He knows his fan base. I give Rob Pelinka credit. Now, listen, he knows the fan. It's not a real knowledgeable fan. It's a dumb fan. So he knows that, and he can sell a bill of goods, and he's like a used car salesman. And he's got a little bit of a blush, but he knows that the idiots will buy it, and so why? DeAndre Ayton has officially now been crowned. If you read the comments of Skinny Jeans Rob Pelinka, he has been crowned now as the purple and gold savior, the great messiah in the middle. And Pelinka, who turned in with these quotes, he was slobber chops. Slobber, slobber, slobber. All over DeAndre Ayton. Talked about his size, mobility, his athleticism. He laid it on thick. Talked about the playoff experience. Now, this is the part which is next-level bullcrap. Oh, DeAndre Ayton, he's got finals experience, NBA finals with the Phoenix Suns, and that aligns well with the Lakers' championship aspiration. Lakers haven't won a championship since Kobe Bryant. He's dead. They have not won in a long time. So it sounds like a news release by the Lakers. It was from Disneyland, but it was in Fantasyland at Disneyland is what it was. I mean, really. Like, what are you doing? Seriously. I mean, you cut through the bull crap, and it's like, this is not the second coming of Shaquille O'Neal. It could be the ghost of Kwame Brown, possibly haunting, ooh, spooky, the Crypt. Isn't it appropriate? The Lakers now play on Skid Row, and they play at the Crypt. How perfect is that? Franchise is about dead, and they play at the Crypt. Now, box score readers, otherwise known as dumb fans, box score readers, they get a Woody when they look at DeAndre Ayton. Look at the double-doubles. Woo-wee-wee. They get all excited. But the numbers do not tell the entire story on this one. They don't. His motor runs cooler than a Saskatoon winner. And my goal is to get the word Saskatoon in every show possible. We play very well in Saskatoon. We have a 10 share. The Ben Maller Show dominates the land of Saskatoon. We do. All right, anyway. So Ayton has been dogged, much like he's play. He is a dog. He needs some dog food. Whispers of laziness, apathy, his entire career. In Phoenix, he was supposed to be an anchor. He was the number 1 overall pick, so he was supposed to be an anchor, but more like an anchor dragging the ship down to the bottom of the water there. And don't let Rob Pelinka and his purple and gold-colored glasses fool you. As Mark Twain, great Mark Twain, quote, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And so Ayton was essentially a role player on that Suns team that choked against the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Finals. And he was there. He had no fire. He was like a wet matchbook is what he was like. He had very little heart. got out hustled, and then it looked like he was essentially working a 9-to-5 job, not battling, not scratching and clawing for the championship. He wasn't like that. In Portland, the Blazers are like, we're going to untap this guy. We figured out he's going to go there. It's his team. There's nobody else ahead of him in the pecking order. It's going to be DeAndre Ayton's team on the Oregon Trail. So he went there, and the Blazers had him for a couple years, and they said, wait a minute. We got to get rid of this guy. And not for cap relief. They didn't do it for salary cap relief. They did it because they couldn't deal with the drama. Would he show up that night? Would he not show up that night? And now Rob Pelinka thinks that he's somehow the missing link to championship dreams. Okay. Did he take the bottle of pills called stupid pills? Did he take those? And as far as the Luka narrative, which is being passed around, well, Luka, they're draft class buddies, Luka Doncic. Right? Hookah Luka and DeAndre. They can go do hookah together. I know some hookah bars in L.A. if they want. You can text me. I'll let them know. Even Luka's wizardry, right? Even his ability, you think it's going to get any kind of passion out of a passionless player in DeAndre Ayton? Come on. You cannot coach hunger, and in the history of the NBA, players that don't have that drive don't all of a sudden get it. They don't. You say, all right, if you're 7 foot tall, that's great. If you're sleepwalking, that does not work. All right, last word, quickly. To Houston we go. Some interesting commentary. Paperwork was turned in to the boys over on Fifth Avenue for the Rockets. The NBA has rubber stamped. They use the old rubber stamp, the Kevin Durant trade from the Suns to the Rockets this week. The dust has settled. Massive 17 record 17 trade. However, it really is just about Kevin Durant. The other players are, good for them. I'm sure their families are excited. Their friends are excited. But for us, it's all about Kevin Durant. So some interesting comments to decipher from the state of Texas. So the Rockets GM, you probably don't know who that is. We didn't know who it is. We had to look him up. His name is Raphael Stone. Sounds like a professional wrestler's name. So Raphael Stone, the GM of the Rockets, explained the Kevin Durant trade. He said, you see this? He said, we're not a developmental team anymore, the GM of the Rockets said, implying that Kevin Durant is the missing puzzle piece, that Kevin Durant is the player that they needed to get to a higher level. So your thoughts? So my first thought is, did I miss something? That's my first thought when it comes to Kevin Durant. Like, did KD suddenly turn back the clock? Did he get in the hot tub time machine and set it to the year 2014? So if you unpack this, if the Rockets GM truly believes that, maybe he's just blowing smoke, but if he truly believes that, boy, he's got some dated thinking. I mean, what are you doing? Kevin Durant is not the closer. In fact, unpopular opinion, Kevin Durant has never been that guy. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. He's never been the final piece. They've tried. It's never happened. So let's call it what it is. We'll call Durant going to the Rockets what it is. Like, his only championship runs came with the Splash Brothers in the Bay Area in Golden State, and that team was a wedding cake. But not just a wedding cake. Okay, that team was like a 10-layer cake with all the greatest frosting, and oh my God. KD was just a few extra sprinkles on top. That's it. That's it. They had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, even that punk Draymond Green. They had all those guys. They were the cake. They were the cake, and KD came in there. He was the sprinkles. He was the cherry on top. So Houston now thinks all of a sudden they're getting the cake boss is what they're getting here. And are they smoking crack over there? What's going on? Seriously. Look at the track record. Oklahoma City, when Kevin Durant was there, the old Sonics that became the Thunder, couldn't get past the Warriors, so he went to the Warriors, but that was a ready-made team, as we already explained. Went to Brooklyn. That was a disaster. You had Kyrie and Durant, who conspired at the All-Star game to form a super team in Brooklyn, and that was like a bad sitcom, like a buddy comedy that got canceled after one season. He went to Phoenix. They got bounced from the playoffs and didn't even make the playoffs here this past year, and he looked at times like he was moving in slow motion. Kevin Durant, and now Houston's like, yeah, that's our guy. Rah-rah, wee, we got our guy. Woohoo! Wait, Phooey. Kevin Durant. Now, he'll be efficient if you play fantasy basketball or daily fantasy, which they're trying to make illegal in California, the People's Republic of California. But he's not carrying a team through 4 playoff rounds, Kevin Durant. That is not happening.